Start again from some past Amar Mar. In the actual Mishnah, we said the Eiruvin Gamliel. Beginning on Samach Aleph. We said that Eiruvin Gamliel holds that by a tzeduki, he could do bittul. However, our father told us, Eiruvin Gamliel said, go out quickly, take the kelim into the mavon, before he does it, before the tzeduki does it. Because if the tzeduki does it, then something's going to happen. It's not going to work. You do it first. You have to get to it first. Rabbi Yehuda said that Rabbi Yehuda's expression was in the Mishnah that do the whatever you need, take whatever you need into the mavoi, because if the tzeduki does it, it's going to become lesser. The Tanakama, the first way of that was said was from Eiruvin Gamliel, was that if you get it first, then it's fine. Rabbi Yehuda was saying that he could revoke it. Even if you get it first, he can still come and revoke it. That's Rabbi Yehuda's way of explaining the sheet of Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. So it's according to Eiruvin Gamliel, it takes effect and he can't revoke it. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, it will take effect, yes, but he can still revoke it. So you have to get done whatever you need to get done before he revokes it. In the Brisa, it was a little different. In the Brisa, the statement of Rabbi Yehuda was, get everything done before dark. Because according to Rabbi Yehuda, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel held that a tzeduk is like a non-Jew. And he can't be mevatel, it's going to be asur. A non-Jew can't be mevatel, you have to rent his rishus. Only a Jew could be mevatel, his rishus. The question is, where does the tzeduki fit in? Eiruvin Gamliel held in the name of his father that the tzeduki is definitely a Jew. And what was he saying to hurry up? Because if he gets there first, if the tzeduki gets there first, it's not going to work. That's what we learned before, that you have to get there first, and not that yesterday. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, there's a discrepancy in what Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is. Amar Mar, so we learned in the Brisa. Rabbi Yehuda Amar b'lashon acheres. Rabbi Yehuda said it differently over what's the status of a tzeduki in the name of Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. He said that Maru vasut tzarchechem mabi actually techshach b'yasser alechem. You have to get there before dark, because what's going to happen after dark, after once Shabbos starts, then the tzeduki is considered like a non-Jew and there's no bittul. Al manachriu. See, then the tzeduki is considered like a non-Jew. Question is, Vanan Tanan, but we learned in our Mishnah, not Adsha Techsha, you have to get it done before dark. We learned in the Mishnah that you have to get it before he comes out and nullifies it. Reread the Mishnah. Go back to the Mishnah. It says Adshala Yotzi. What is Adshala Yotzi? You have to get there before the tzeduki gets there. That sounds like that tzeduki's bittels would work, but you have to get there first. No, what it means is you have to get there before Shabbos. Actually, Yetzi, because once Shabbos starts, the tzeduki's bittel doesn't. There's no bittel by the tzeduki because he's considered like an achur. So actually, Yetzi doesn't mean before he takes his items out and revokes the bittel by showing that the chutzner is not really given up to the rest of the courtyard, that he's still keeping his rights. No, it means actually Yotzi before the day goes out. Actually, Yotzi. We by same another teretz, as we have a discrepancy in what did Rabbi Yehuda say. Another teretz we could say is like kasha. Kam b'muma l'chal shabbos betzina. Kam b'muma l'chal shabbos befaresya. Interesting teretz. Depends what type of tzeduki is. If he's a tzeduki that's machal Shabbos befaresya in the public, then he's like a non-Jew. And then Reb Shimon ben Gamliel was talking about, there's two cases, it's Mr. So-and-so and Mr. So-and-so, Tzeduki A and Tzeduki B. If he's Machal Shabbos Befarhesi, then he's like a non-Jew and you have to do everything in the courtyard before Shabbos because he's just going to mess it up. He's not going to rent to you the area. He's a Tzeduki and he can't do bittul either. Why? Because he's Machal Shabbos Befarhesi. Befarhesi means in public, in front of everyone. He's Machal Shabbos. Then there's another type of Machal Shabbos. He's Machal Shabbos B'tzina. No one knows. Secretly, when no one's watching, he does things, doesn't keep Shabbos. So for him, the bittul would work. The only thing is he could revoke it. So that was what Rabbi was saying. Get your things done before he revokes it. Like whom does it go? The following price. Mumar v'gili panim hareza hinam abatul rishus. The mumar is someone that violates Torah laws, and he's a non-observant. And the gili panim, this is someone that's gili panim. It's chutzpah. He cannot be mevatul rishus. Someone that has chutzpah and someone that's a mumar. The Gemara says gili panim mumar is someone that has chutzpah. It goes into that category. He's not quiet during the rabbi's drasha. It's not. It doesn't become a mumar because of that. No, he's what you have to translate the brisa differently. You have to read it differently. A mumar that's a gili panim, a mumar that's befarhesia. He's a mumar in a way of chutzpah. He violates Torah laws. He's not observant in front of everyone. Mumar gili panim ein yachol levatel rishus. Come on, who does that go like? Well, Rabbi Gamliel would hold that he's allowed to. It must go like Rabbi Yehuda. It must fit with Rabbi Yehuda because Rabbi Yehuda said that he was like a non-Jew. And that's a riot to that parrot. It's an interesting place just over here. This it says 2 points, major points. First point is, if someone violates rabbinic law on Shabbos, is he considered a mumar? Yesterday we learned that yes, because on the top of the page we said, Rashi said that the chiddush over there was that even though he's a mumar, now what's he taking to? He's taking into an area that there was no Eiruvin. It's all rabbinic law. He became a mumar because he violated rabbinic law. Taisa says that, you become a mumar just because you violate rabbinic law. Question now is, at 1 second, we're dealing with the tzeduki. Tzeduki doesn't believe in rabbinic law. So what are you telling me that there's a mumar b'tzina, it's machal Shabbos b'tzina, it's machal Shabbos b'hesya? Doesn't believe in it. Why? What do you mean that it's b'tzina? Doesn't believe in rabbinic law. The Tosfos says that they were afraid of the Chachamim from the Perushim, and they kept it in public. It was in private, but they didn't keep rabbinic law. That's the Tosfos over here. This in other places. There's another answer. There's other answers. There's an answer that's given by some Rishonim that they follow minhag aviseim b'yadayim. They're just following their tradition that they were taught by their fathers that didn't believe in rabbinic law, but they're not really asa because it's not their own theories. That's what they were taught. That's how they were raised. Comes out very interesting. Okay. Who the nafak the chumarta the medusha? There was some chumarta the medusha. Rashi tells us is a spices little container that he's wearing it on Shabbos. And now the problem is it's not a tachshit, so you really can't wear it on Shabbos. So he's walking out with this, and Kivin the Chazia, Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, Kasya. Sees Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, he covers it over. He doesn't want Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya. That's Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya's grandson. To see that he's being Chal Shabbos, covers it over. Amar, he says, "Kagain sem evatel rishus Rabbi Yehuda." Such a tzaddik. Rabbi Yehuda said, according to Rabbi Yehuda, he could be mevatel rishus. Why? Because he's not a Mechal Shabbos before Hesya. Even though probably in front of everyone else, yeah. But because in front of the Rav, he doesn't want the Rav to see that he's being Mechal Shabbos, so that's already enough that it's not considered before Hesya. Rabbi Yehuda would say that this is someone that could be mevatel rishus. He's not a nachri. What did they say? In Volozhin, the three Bachrim were smoking on Shabbos. The Rosh Hashiva walked in. One said, I forgot it was Shabbos. One says, I didn't realize that you can't smoke on Shabbos. One said, I didn't realize the Rosh Hashiva was coming. So, if that's the case, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it could be in the Vatul Rishus. Amar Rav Huna. Rav Huna says, "Is Yisrael Mumar?" Who's considered a Yisrael Mumar? Zemachal Shabbos b'far Hesya. That's someone who's considered not observant, that he gets the status, that's someone that violates Shabbos in public. Amalei Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman was a little surprised. You see, we're familiar with this concept that a Mumar, Machal Shabbos, that's we talk about it, like, is a person observant? We say, well, does he keep Shabbos? Like, as if that's the main criteria. It's not necessarily so. It is so because based on the end of the Gemara, but the was going through this. In those days, there were other things. That was the big deal. Did they worship Avodah Zarah? That was the big deal. So Rav Nachman says, come on, who does this fit like? If it follows Rav Meir's opinion that says that if you don't keep one mitzvah, that means we don't trust you in anything. So I feel then why are you saying, well, that only Chal Shabbos? Even if it's some other thing, Yidanasha or whatever, it doesn't have to be Chal Shabbos. Ikar Rabbanan, if it's like the Rabbanan Ha'amri, they hold they hold that it doesn't work like that. Just because he doesn't not careful with the Yidanasha or something, or Shaknas or something, that doesn't mean that he violates everything. It's machlekes Rav Meir and the Rabbanan. If mumma ledaber echad is mumma l'chol Torah, I think we have this in Chulam. No, it says it here, it's in Bechayos. All right. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak kliten rishus levachel rishus. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak limits the whole discussion. We're not talking about the person's status. Is he considered an observant Jew or not? We're talking about just one halacha. If he's a Mechal Shabbos b'Bar Hesya, then he can't be mevatel rishus to the other people in his courtyard. That's it. Look at the Tanya. I was starting to Bryce Yisrael Mumar. If there's a Yisrael that's not observant. So how is he not observant? If he's nevertheless in public, in the marketplace, he's keep Shabbos, then mevatel rishus, he could nullify his courtyard. That means he could give up his rights to the courtyard to let everyone else carry. But if he doesn't keep Shabbos in the marketplace, in other words, he's machal Shabbos b'far Hesya, so ein mevatel rishus, then he can't give up his rights to the courtyard. Because they said Yisrael noitin rishus v'noisin rishus. By Yisrael, he can give up his rights and also receive the rights from others. But by a non-Jew, they can't do that. They need to rent the rights to that area. Ketzad, how is it done? How does he give up his rights? This is by the Yisrael. He just makes a statement. And then, automatically, it's given over to the other people in the courtyard, and you don't need to make a kinyan. You don't have to lift up a garth or a handkerchief or something. Ravashi says, Ravashi tells us something that we're familiar with. We're familiar with this concept that someone that violates Shabbos, it's as if he worships Avodah Zarah. Kedetanya was taught in the Brisa. This is the Brisa referring to Kabbanos. It says Mikem. It says speak to the Jewish people. From someone from you that will bring a sacrifice. Mikem v'lekulchem, from you, but not all of you. Prat l'muma. This is excluding someone that's not observant can't bring a sacrifice. Mikem means b'chem chalakti v'lei b'umas. By you, I made this distinction that an observant Jew can bring, but a non-observant Jew can't. But by the nations of the world, we don't have that concept that there's a religious non-Jew or whatever. They all can bring a sacrifice. Yeah, so it's worse to be Jewish and not observant than a non-Jew. A non-Jew can always bring a sacrifice, no matter what. Mina behema, from an animal. This is coming to tell us that even a person that's similar to an animal, he could bring a sacrifice. Mikan Amro, from here we see, Mekabel Karbanis Mipaishi Yisrael. The Gemara is going to ask in a moment that the Brisa is self-contradictory. That we can accept Karbanis even from the Jewish people that are sinners. So that they'll repent. Chutzmin Amumar, except for a Mumar, you can't accept from him, someone that pours wine. And someone that violates the Shabbat. The Gemara says, one second, you just contradicted yourself. In the Brisa itself, it's self-contradictory. He started off saying that only some of you can bring sacrifices, but not all of you. That's who is the not all? That's excluding someone that's not observant. And then you say that you accept kabbanis from people that are unobservant, that are sinners. It's like a square circle. What is it? Is it yes or no? So Halei Kasha, the Gemara says it's not a problem. Reisha b'mumar l'chol ha'Torah. We started off saying that you can't accept from someone that's not observant. How not observant is he? Well, he doesn't keep the whole Torah. Okay, so from him you can't accept. Mitziyasa, where we said that you can't accept Yisrael, that's b'mumar l'davar echad. That's when he's just not observant in one area. Okay. We accept from him, so he'll do tshuva. Then it says, Seifa. Okay, Ema Seifa. What does it say in the Seifa? Except for someone that's not observant and someone that pours wine to Avodah Zarah. Hi Mumar Hechidami. What does it mean that he's not observant? If he's not observant entirely, then that's what we learned in the Reisha. Why does it have to repeat it? If he's only not observant in one area, so Kasha Mitziyasa. We said that you do accept from such a person. The middle case, we said that you do accept. This is what it means. It's saying that not a mumar and someone that's menaseh and someone that doesn't keep Shabbos. It's saying a mumar for these things, a mumar for serving Avodah Zarah, pouring wine for Avodah Zarah, and the mumar for Chilul Shabbos. And Alma, what's it telling us? Avodah Zarah Shabbos ki adadin and Nishma. See, Avodah Zarah and Shabbos is the same status. Someone that worships Avodah Zarah and someone doesn't keep Shabbos is the same status. I guess the basis is because Shabbos shows in the belief that Hashem created the world. And Avodah Zarah is you don't believe in Hashem. Okay. Today it's much more complicated. It's not so simple. I guess then it was like black and white. If you believe Hashem created the world, you keep Shabbos. Yeah. They say 51% of American scientists believe in God. I heard that from Rabbi Steinsaltz. Rabbi Shalom was giving a speech, and he mentioned that. I Googled it, but actually it came out like that. That's what the Google said. Where Rabbi Steinsaltz's point was, he said that they asked the professors, do you believe in God? And if not, if you don't, why not? That was the question, 2 questions. And so it depends. In the science departments, 51% believe in God. In the arts, the humanities, it was the majority did not believe in God. And when they asked them why not, they said because of science. That was the okay. Mishnah says, "Anshi chatzis sheshachach." I'm sorry.
No, I just found a different statistic. It said 41%. Just says of scientists don't believe in God. That's all.
41% don't.
41% don't believe. Let me read it a little bit better. I'm just saying, whatever it is, this.
Yes, you have to throw in intelligent design into that.
If it's a correct
category.
Gallup poll. I'm sorry.
Okay, Anshi Chatza. People of a courtyard. Sheshachach echad me'am v'lo Eiruvin. One person forgot to contribute to the Eiruvin. So what did they do? He tells everyone, I'm sorry, I forgot. You guys can use my rights to the courtyard. The Gemara is going to explain that he wasn't mevatel his house. He didn't give up his rights to his house. He only gave up his rights to the courtyard. So what happens is everyone in that courtyard can carry from their own houses to the courtyard. But his house, they can't go into his house. Beisay Aser, his house is Aser. For himself, he can't carry out of his house. And they can't go into his house and take his own items out for him, or whatever they want, into the courtyard. It's a problem of carrying from his rishus into the common area, because that house is still considered private. The common area is considered everyone's. And he gave up his own rights. So the common area has an Eiruvin. His house is still out of the Eiruvin. What about their houses? He can go into their houses, and they can go into their houses and take items out from the house into the courtyard. And their houses all became belonging to like one family. Nasnu loy reshusam. Let's say they did it the opposite way. He's maybe a stingy guy. I'm not giving up my rights to the courtyard. And I said, okay, fine. All of us will give up our rights to the courtyard to you. So now it's owned by one person. So Humater, he's permissible to take out of his house, to carry. But they're usher to take out of his house. Even his house. Now, really, it's a rishus of only one person. It's a chiddush over here. You're going to have to explain why. Because if only one person owns his whole courtyard, then there's no... Not bad, Dr. Stein.
That's the correct, what Rabbi Stein says. It adds up to 51%.
Right. It's pretty interesting.
So.
Okay, so there's a chiddush here that even though one person has the rights to this whole courtyard, because everyone was mevatel just to this one individual, nevertheless, they still can't go into his house and carry out of it. We have to see in the Gemara why. If there's 2 people, that didn't participate in the Eruv, they answer against it. They answer on each other. She'echad neisin rishus v'neitel rishus. Shnayim neisin rishus v'ein neitel rishus. Two people, they can give up the rights, but they can't get the rights. That means two people can be mevatel the rishus. If two people forgot to make the Eruv, they can say, okay, we give up our rights. But you can't give up the entire courtyard. All the other people that live there can't give up the rights to one of the two people because there's another one there that's not part of it. When can you do this? When can you be mevatel rishus? This little trick. You give up your rights to the courtyard, and then people can carry transfer of rights. Okay. Bishami says it has to be done by day. That is from Dar. You can even do it on Shabbos. That's what we learn. If someone gave up his rights, but then he goes out and he carries, that means that he is nullifying what he did, whether it was b'shegig, whether it was b'mezid, it's asur. That's what Rameir says. And once he's got the rights back, it doesn't work anymore. Rabbi Yehuda, remember b'mezid asur. B'mezid, he's nullifying it. B'shegig, if it's b'shegig, he did it by mistake, then ain't no asur. And you don't, like we learned before, you don't make a gzeira or a knas shegig of the mitzvah. And now the Gemara explains the Mishnah. We said that one person forgot to make the Eruv, so he gives up his rights, and everyone can carry out of their houses, but out of his house, they can't carry. Beis Yehuda Asur can't carry out of his house. Hachatzeirei, but the courtyard. Shaya, there's no problem in the courtyard. Everyone can carry in the courtyard. Hechidami, what's the case? Now, this Gemara may seem a little difficult because we already explained it based on the Gemara's answer. But the Gemara doesn't have that answer, that he was mevatel the courtyard, but not his house. We're going to get to that as we go through this. Either batel beisai, did he nullify the rights to his house? Am I asur? So why is it prohibited? Either like batel, if he wasn't mevatel anything, then chatzer ma'shaya. You know, the Mishnah didn't say that he was mevatel. I added that in for explanation when we were learning it. If he wasn't mevatel anything, so why can they carry in the courtyard? Talking about mevatel the rights to his courtyard, but not to his house. That's the teretz. The Kasavri Rabbanan, the Rabbanan hold the mevatel rishus chatzer rishus beisei lo bitul. The Rabbanan hold that if someone gives up the rights to the courtyard, he still keeps the house. The dayer inish b'bayis b'lei chatzer. Person will live in a house without a courtyard. He's keeping the house. I'm not giving up the rights to the house. I think in Israel today, there's can you get an apartment, or would anyone get an apartment without a merpesa? It's a big deal to have the balcony and the porch. So, or a courtyard. We live outside a lot. We're used to outside.
Why would somebody do this?
He's doing it just to be able to carry on Shabbos. So he's giving up his personal rights to that area.
He's benefiting other people, but he's not helping himself.
Right. Notice he's now a guest in the courtyard. He used to be, it's my courtyard, you know. Now they're letting him sit over there. So v'shelahen mutter loy b'lahen, but their houses they can still carry from into the courtyard. My timer, he's allowed to carry them because he's a guest. He's a guest. It's not a problem. A guest comes into a building. He's not part of the Eruv. It's not a problem. It's not. He doesn't live there. He's a guest. It's not that the problem over here is that when you have people that have, there's more than one person that has rights to this area. It becomes like a public area. But a guest doesn't have rights. He's just a guest. If they gave him the rights, very generous people, all of them together gave this one fellow their rights to the courtyard. So they're usher even to take from his house, to take out of his house. Now, let's just compare this. Compare the two cases, because you'll see that it's not symmetrical. If he gives up his rights to them, then everyone can use their houses and take in and out of their houses. But his house is usher to him and to them. If they give up their rights to him, now it should be that his house should be mutter to everyone. That's what happened the other way. When he gave up their rights to them, their house was mutter to everyone. When they give up their rights to him, his house should be mutter to everyone. It doesn't say that. It says when they give up the rights to him, his mutter in his house, but they're not. Doesn't sound fair. The courtyard, everyone, but not to his house. So what's going on over here? The Gemara asks, what's the problem? They're just guests. Why can't they use his house? Take in and out. The Gemara says, yeah, one person could be a guest. But 5 people are not guests to one person. Okay. Now the way the Gemara learned this was that he could be mevatel rishus to them. Then the Gemara understood that they can then in return be mevatel their rishus to him. And the Gemara is learning it as consecutive. That he did it first and then they followed. So the Gemara says, Shema mina mevatel mechezin mevatel. Oh, this was a machlekes Rab and Shmuel. Are you allowed to nullify your rights, give up your rights, and then they nullify it back? Sounds like yes. The Gemara says, it's not a raya. Why? Because nasmle rishusan miikara u'matavhinasur. It's not consecutive. First he did this, and then they did that. It's saying 2 different cases. One case was when he gave up his rights to them. The second case was when originally they gave up their rights to him, but not that it's following what happened before. Says, if there's 2 people, then they answer on each other. The Gemara says, Pshita, what are you telling me? If they give up the rights to 2 people, look, even if there were only 2 people here in the whole thing, and there were never other people that were giving up rights, it's going to be us. 2 people is a problem if there's no Eiruvin. You're making a complicated case. So let's say there's an Eruv and 2 people didn't participate and they give up the rights to the 2. It's Asr. Dropped all of that, 2 people is Asr. Even without all of that other complications. It's obvious. That's how it is. It's like Tzricha. We know we have a Chiddush. They're mevatel to 1. Then the other guy says, you know what, to get this to work, I have to be mevatel it to my friend. Also didn't participate in the Eruv. So he's mevatel it to them. Mao, the Tamal history, we could think that could possibly work. Kamash Malon, it comes to tell us, given the Be'idna the Batal, Lo Yehav Leish for Yusuf by Chatzar. It doesn't work. Because when they gave it to the first guy, when they gave it to Reuven and Shimon forgot to join in the Eruv. So the rest of the courtyard, the rest of the people there gave it. They said, Reuven, we're giving up our rights to you. Does Reuven have the rights? No, because Shimon is there. The rights. So Reuven then says, I'm going to give the rights to Shimon. And now it's all given up to Shimon. That doesn't work either. Because Reuven can only give up rights that he had, and he never had the rights. Because when he got them, Shimon was there. That doesn't work. That's what we're learning here. There's 2 people, giving up the rights doesn't work. Okay, that's what we learn. Because one person can give up the rights and also receive the rights. Why do you have to repeat this? If it's talking about giving up the rights, Tanina, that we learned in the Mishnah. If it's talking about receiving the rights, Tanina, we also learned that in the Mishnah. Why is the Mishnah repeating itself? Seifetz Shichaleh. It wants to tell us the end, and this was just an introduction to what is the point. What was the point? Shnayim Naisen Rishus, that 2 people can give up the rights. The Gemara says, really? Hanami Pshita. That's also not a Chiddush. The Gemara says, yeah, Ma'od, it is a Chiddush. Because Mahu the Tema, I could have thought that maybe Ligzer Dum Yasal Vatulu Lahu. maybe if two people can give up the rights, then you might think that the rest of the courtyard can give up the rights to two people. Because it usually works both ways. Kamash Malan, that we don't make that Gezerah. You're right that the rest of the courtyard can't give it up to two people that weren't part of the Eruv. But two people can still give up the rights. So as if there's two people that didn't mix in, that didn't join in the Eruv, then it can only work one way, where they give up the rights to the rest of the people that are part of the Eruv. Two people can't take the rights from everyone else. Lamali. Why does it have to repeat this? The Chiddush is that even if they tell him, acquire it on condition to give it over to the other guy. They know a little bit of the halacha. They say acquire it on condition. They come up with this whole acquisition is just to be able to give it over to Mashma, and still doesn't work. Okay. Let's see if we can finish to the bottom of the page, because this is really one sugya, and we're going to have a brisa here that gets a little complex. So we'll try to go through this. Boy mine Abaya mi Rabba. Abaya has a simple question from Rabba. Okay, there's a story. 5 people in a courtyard. They made an Eruv, and one guy didn't participate. He forgot. So we know what the solution is. He gives up his right to everyone else. So when he's doing that, can he give up his rights just to one person that's in the Eruv? He says, look, you, my next door neighbor, I forgot to participate in the Eruv. I'm giving you my rights. Now he doesn't exist. And that other person is part of the Eruv. Or does he have to give up his rights to every single individual? That's part of the Eruv. Like, how non-existent does he become? Is it every person is acquiring his rights and he mamish doesn't exist? Or is he giving it to one person and that's enough because that person contributed? Yeah, there must be like a lumpish way of looking at this. Amar Lei. So Rabba responds to Abaya, you have to do it to everyone. You nullify it to everyone. Esvik. Abaya has a question for Rabba. Quotes a brisa. I divided this brisa into 4 cases, just for my own clarity. I'll tell you as we go through it how I divided it. Just a bunch of cases. We start off with the case that there's 3 people in the courtyard. One of them didn't join in the Eruv. Naisin Rishusei Lechad She'ir. He can give over his rights to one of the other people, one of the other 2 people. Understand? He can give over his rights to one of the other 2 people. That's a chiddush, because that's what Abaya wants to ask Rabba. Rabba said you have to give it over to both of them. The brisa immediately at the beginning says you give it over to just one. We could stop right here, but it doesn't do that. It tells us the whole brisa. Shnayim she'irvu noisin rishusin lechad shleir. Or it could go the other way. We're still in the first case. The 2 people that were participating in the Eruv, they can give over their rights to the one guy also. Okay. Case number 2. Now there's 4 people in the courtyard. Case number 2. 2 people that did not make an Eruv, they can give over their rights to the 2 people that did make the Eruv. Case number 3. Or we're talking about that there was no Eruv at all. And there's 3 people in the courtyard. 2 people that didn't make an Eruv can give up their rights to the one person that made an Eruv. And there's no, to the one person, to one of the people, and now there's no Eruv at all here. It's just that everyone's just giving up their rights to one person, that's a huge chiddush. You don't need an Eruv. Just everyone just goes around giving up their rights to one person. However, you can't. We're going back to case one. One of the people that made the Eruv cannot give up his rights to the one guy that didn't make the Eruv. Why? He said only if both of them, there are three people. Two people joined in the Eruv, one didn't. One of the people that made the Eruv can't give up his rights to the other one, to the one that didn't make the Eruv, and leave out the other person that made the Eruv. That's not going to work. Even though this person is replacing someone that made the Eruv, but he didn't join in the other one, and there still is a discrepancy here. There still is a problem. One person without an Eruv and one person with an Eruv. Now, that we know already. Two people, you can't give up to your rights to two people without an Eruv. Now, here's the last case. There's two people that didn't make an Eruv, can't give their rights to another two people that didn't make an Eruv. It's very obvious. There's four people here, no one made an Eruv. And so two people want to give up their rights to the other two people. It doesn't work. They can give it to one person, but not to two. Okay, we're going to discuss this because this was a biased question to Rabbah. One person that didn't make an Eruv, he can give up his rights to the courtyard to one of the people that made an Eruv. There's three people in the courtyard. Two made an Eruv, one didn't. He doesn't have to give up his rights to both of them. He can just give it to one of them. What's the case? If there's no one else there, just one and one. So, so what do you mean? The other person made an Eruv. Who did he make an Eruv with? It has to be there must be three people here. I explained the Mishnah already after learning the Gemara. I explained the Bryce after learning the Gemara. It should make it a little clearer as we read it. But the Gemara is going through what's the case of each one. And you see that you only have to give up your rights to one of the people that was in the Eruv. You don't have to give it up to all of them. Abaya has a good point. It's a kasha on Rabbah. For Rabbah, what about Rabbah? What does he hold? Rabbah holds that the fellow was here, but he died. There's no one else here. Yes, he made an Eruv. That's how we resolved the issue. He made an Eruv, but there's really only one other person here that he could give up his rights to. It's the person that's alive. The other fellow that was part of the Eruv died. One second. There's a problem here. If you say that he's here and he died, let's read further. It says what not to do. It says, we said that one of the people that was in the Eruv can't give up his rights to the one person that didn't make an Eruv. We said because he left out the other fellow that was part of the Eruv. They could both give up their rights to him, but one of them can't give it up to the one that didn't make the Eruv. But if he was here, but he died, so what's the problem? There's only one person here. Well, there's two people. One of them that was originally part of the Eruv, he's still standing, and the one that wasn't part of the Eruv. Why can't either one give up the rights to the other? Obviously, he's there. It's Kashan Rabbah. And we the Sefer Yisa Reishanami Yisa. What do you mean that he's died? If he's alive in the Sefer, it means in the case of the Sefer. So then the Reisha is the same case. We're saying the Reisha tells me the beginning of the Bryce said what you're allowed to do. The Sefer says what you're not allowed to do. But it's obviously the scenario is the same. Gemara says, Midi area, does that have to be so? Hakadisa. No, there's different cases. The Sefer is telling me what I'm not allowed to do in a different case. So in the Sefer, the guy is alive. There's three people still in the courtyard. In the Reisha, there were three people, but now there's only two. Teda, I'll prove it to you. The Tani Sefer, the Reisha, because the end of the Reisha says, this is case number 2. Two people that didn't make an Eruv can give up their rights to the two people that did make an Eruv. Wow. Who are they giving up their rights to? L'shnayim, they're giving up the rights to both. L'shnayim in le'echad loy. Rab is correct. You have to give it up to both. You can't just give it up to one. To one. Obviously, the ratio is talking about when you're giving your rights up to one person, it's because the other guy died. Abaya says Mila base. Abaya just translates it differently. He says, what does it mean? Two people that made the Eruv, two people that didn't make the Eruv, can give up the rights to the two people that did make the Eruv. What does that mean? Le'echad mi base. You give up the rights to one of the two people. It doesn't have to be both of them. That's how he explains his opinion. If that's the case, then it could have said, or someone, or then it could work both ways. This is kasha. It's a kasha about it. What happened was, in the second case, Shnayim Shalei Irvu Nisan Rishushan, Shnayim She'irvu. If you're only giving it to one person, then why does it have to say L'shnayim? It could have said this way, it said it in the Resha. It said Le'echad She'ir, the same story. It could have just continued it. That's a kasha on the Bible. Okay, now the Gemara goes through explaining this, each of the cases. We can go through it quickly because we already learned it, and we'll just hopefully get to the bottom. One of them that didn't make an Eruv can give his rights to the other person that made an Eruv. Abaya Disa. Abaya is talking about that there is a third person here, he's still alive. According to Abaya, you don't have to give your rights up to every other person in the Eruv, you just have to give it up to one person that's in the Eruv. The Rabba, the Hava, according to Rabba, there was another person, a third person here, but he died. And that's why you only have to give it to one. And what's the Chiddush? We don't make a Gzeira. We don't make a Gzeira that maybe he would be alive. and this wouldn't work. It works because he died. Shnayim, the next case, Shnayim, the two people that were part of the Eruv can also give up the rights to the one person that was out of the Eruv. The Gemara says, Pshita, that's obvious. The Gemara says, no. Maybe we should make a knas that because he didn't participate, he shouldn't be allowed to receive the rishus, and it should work. Kamashmalan that it does work. Now, case number 2. 4 people in the courtyard. 2 people that didn't make an Eruv can give up their rights to the people. Machlekes here. Give up their rights to the other people that were part of the Eruv. L'Rabba, according to Rabba, Tana Sefer L'Glui Reisha. This case is taught to tell me that you have to give it up to both of the people. And therefore, the Reisha is telling me that there's only one person left because the other one died. La Abaya, according to Abaya, for Abaya, we have a chiddush that I could have thought that the 2 people that made the Eruv may end up giving it to the ones that didn't make the Eruv, and we learned that doesn't work. So therefore, the ones that didn't make the Eruv maybe shouldn't be allowed to give it to the ones that did make the Eruv. Mashmalan, that we don't make that kazera. Now it says, this is case number 3. We're talking about now where, as the Gemara is going to conclude, we're talking about that there was no Eruv at all. Lamali, why do you need that case? You can give it to one person. Everyone can give up the rights. When can someone give up the rights? That's if there was an Eruv in existence. Just one person wasn't part of it. But if there was no Eruv in existence at all in this courtyard, they should make a knas. There was no Eruv here, it's no good. Kamash Malan comes to teach us, even though there was no Eruv, we don't make that knas. It's fine. no Erev, they can still give up the rights and carry. However, now we're going into the do nots. One person that made an Erev cannot give up his rights to one of the people that didn't make the Erev. There's two people that didn't make the Erev. According to Abaya, this is only necessary because at the beginning it was telling me that you only have to give up your rights to one of the people that did make the Erev. L'Rabba, I did Tanaresha Tanina Misefer. According to Rabba, we already learned that you only give up your rights to one person. You have to give up your rights to every single person. And this is just a follow-up from what we said earlier. Now we say two people that made the Erev, they can't give their rights to the two people that didn't make the Erev. Just for that already. Pasulamli, why do you have to say that again? It's necessary. One of them gave up his rights to his friend. One of the two people that didn't make the Erev. Could say that maybe this should work. Kamash Malan comes to teach us, given the beginning of the bottle, it's coming to tell us, since when everyone gave up their rights to the one person that wasn't part of the Erev, he did not acquire those rights because he wasn't able to use the courtyard, because he still had his friend there that wasn't part of the Erev either. So therefore, he can't now give his friend those rights that he never had. Now we say, what do you have to say? Two people can't give up the rights to two people. We're talking about the Chiddush is that even though they told them that we're giving you these rights just so that you give it over to the other person, it still doesn't work. Okay. There wasn't really a Chiddush in this discussion. It was just explaining each case of this price that we mentioned.